is the biggest myth about drug use?
Oh my gosh. That it can't happen to anybody. You know, like everybody's like, oh, drug addicts, like you live under a bridge and like you have nothing and you grew up like really poor and poverty ridden and you grew up with nothing. You had no parents, like you were just like dropped off by the stork and you become a drug addict. And that's not the case for me. That's not the case for most of my friends that are sober. I mean, there's obviously like some trauma that goes into it, that goes into like eventually picking up drugs as a solution. I mean, I believe that at least. But I think like the biggest myth is that like it can't happen to anyone, when like in reality, like it can happen to anybody, anywhere, at any time. Like all it takes is that little switch in your brain to go off. And next thing you know, you can't stop. And that's why, like I said earlier, like I really feel like I just like tripped and fell on a needle when I was 17 and ended up an IV heroin user because like I don't know how it happened.
Absolutely. I think that yes is for something else, obviously not for the heroin comment. I do want to ask you, looking forward or looking back, you're talking about, you tripped and fell and, it could happen to anybody. I'm assuming that you've done some reflection, over the years. What do you think was the biggest disempowering belief that you had about yourself that you had to change into an empowering belief?
I think like as a child or like when I was using or both.
I'm going to say, while you were using.
Okay. So, I mean, when I was using, I thought this was going to be my life forever. Like, I really believed in my heart of hearts that there was like no way that I could ever get better. And like, there was not sobriety to be found for me. Like, I really thought that. And in early sobriety, I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, this isn't going to last. And I'm just going to end up getting high again. I'm going to disappoint my family again. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And like, I remember my therapist, my first therapist I had in my treatment center was like, oh my God, I love her to death. She was unbelievable. And she would just let me sit on her office floor and cry. Like I would literally sit there in the fetal position with like 45, 50 days sober, rocking back and forth, hysterically crying because I didn't think I could do it. And like sometimes I'll text her and be like, hey, can I come cry on your office floor today? And she's like, it's always there. Because like everybody needs a good cry once in a while. But I mean, she just continued to tell me, and she's like also a woman in long-term sobriety. And like I look up to her and her family and like just the woman she is so much. But she just continued to tell me, just put one foot in front of the other and do what is suggested.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
You will be able to find sobriety. And like, that's literally exactly what I did.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what I did.